how to get this apart. For recycling purposes, this YouTube video at the 2-minute mark will be about the following. How to properly field strip and recycle a vaping product, and why it not being labeled clearly is very bad. It does not state whether or not this is a nicotine product or not, whether it is used for anything else. These designs, if you're not aware of it, are based very, very closely on atomizers or vaporizers or inhalers used for upper respiratory injuries. If you can't tell from my inability to go through a video without gagging and coughing, I have permanent lung damage from multiple viral infections when I was a kid. The damage is never going to heal. I'm able to breathe. I'm in fantastic condition because since it happened so early, I went to the trouble of rehabilitating. But I had one of those vapes, and it was for keeping me from having my lungs not work. I also inhaled a lot of steam. So anyway, the volume of this says this is a deluxe model, let's say. How do we take it apart? Well, we're going to start with our old friend, a random set of keys with my little keyring pocket knife. This is a Victorinox little mini one that's been damaged a lot. We're going to use just the screwdriver tip in this one. I've already done all the bad methods, so I'm going to show you how the good ones work. Here's the mouthpiece for it. Thank goodness it has decent contrast. We want to go in on the edges of it, if we can, with our screwdriver tip, and see if we can get under there and pry up. In this case, I can't, so I have to switch to a blade. We don't do that right now. We do it later. The bottom switch, we'll start with that one. Let's see if we can do it with our screwdriver. It has a very hard to see indent, which indicates strongly that it is simply pressed fit. So, we go in, we push it into one position or another, let's say close, it's labeled that. There's a little air vent in it for intaking air to go through the vaping system. We go under it like this with our screwdriver tip, and we go in under and we pry up. And in this case, it's loosened. It was in there pretty tightly. I think it might have even been glued. You might need to use a very well-made, well, now it's lost forever, well-made screwdriver. Hope this is a single take. Now, the front faceplate can be taken off at this point, but I'm going to go back and I'm going to actually use a blade. This is a deliberately dulled knife blade. It's also called a spudger when you do that. They make blades like this for opening watches, and they're literally a blade that has been very carefully made to be blunt, so you can't cut yourself. Okay, we put it in on the side. Let me see if we can get you a good view of it. Put it in on the side over here. Press it in, and lift up. And it'll fail a little bit. Keep going on the other side, and one side will eventually lift up. Doesn't work on camera. Always keep an eye on what you're doing. Stop doing it. Okay, let me just try wrenching it loose. That worked equally as bad. Okay, let's put it over there. And on top of it, if it had the guts in it, you would see icky stuff. The stuff in there is not to be touched. You should be doing all of this with gloves. I've already flushed this thing clean so I can get away with doing this. Now we're going to go back to our blunt tip, screwdriver tip. We want to go in, we have the 50, 25, and 75% marks. When you do mechanical interface fit, or interference fit, or interfaces, you do the halfway point, and then the 75% mark and the 25% mark arbitrarily from each end. You want to go in on this one, on the 25 and 75s on each side, and wrench it up, and again, it can't work. Down here we get a little bit of a reprieve. There's a space there, so we'll grip like this and push up on the plastic on the little rim of it. And we get a fail. Try over here. Always try with your screwdriver first. Don't use a spudger or anything that could possibly injure you by having a sharp blade effect. Now we have to go in and do the sharp blade effect. At which point, we want to start at whatever end we can pick, and we're going to be rocking it back and forth. We push it in until it breaks loose. It's not glued. Now we have to do it on both sides, so when we do this side, let's say I'm right-hand dominant, I do it this way, and then when I do it this way, I have to aim it towards myself, adjust my holding of the blade, and do it on that side. And as you can hear, it pops right out. Keep going on all of the edges, trying to get it to come loose. Now it'll pop up a very tiny distance. It's not much. But when you do that, do it again until you get more than one click on each end, or it'll rock back in place. Now the entire mechanism is partially loosened. Down here by the little switch, it needs to sneak underneath there. So we want to push it forward as far as we can, and then put a thin spudger, at this point is required, in there, and get it under there and catch a little bit of edge of that switch, and we push it out, and now we're pushing it all out. At which point, most of the tank and everything else would come out. I've already thrown the tank away because, oh my God, it's disgusting. Inside, we will find a mechanism that can now be very carefully pulled out. There are a couple of tabs that are holding it in that are designed into it that won't let it come loose. And we can't get at them until we get this outer plastic piece off. So we have to use a blade or a spudger or whatever. At the 50% mark, you'll find a black tab right in the middle here. You push up towards the round end and crank and pop. And do it again over here. It's actually somewhat easier to pop this off before you do the rest. Once you get that off, it comes loose. Then you can try removing this plastic cover that has the dark plastic on it. Come on, get out of there. Okay, or not. But once you've done that, this will reveal these side catches here. It's almost impossible to see. Here. And on the other side. And you have to crank them outward by using a screwdriver, blade, whatever, where you go in at this edge, reach in and pull it out while pushing or pulling on the battery pack, which is this thing here, and it has the circuit board on it. It has to be pulled this way. Now that'll either cooperate or it won't. Your mileage will vary, but you have to make sure that this faceplate is removed before you go there. So you're going to have to mess with it a lot. Well, no, you don't. You go to the the 25 and 75% marks and knock loose the plastic right here and here for this blackout plastic piece. And when you do that, you can get at it, and all the circuits are going to come out of here, and it's really, really cumbersome. This is not a design that's made to be taken apart. It's designed to be assembled by somebody who actually knows what they're doing. I'm not one of them. And then taken apart. At this point, we have it at the now last stage of recycling that we can do on a practical level. And at this point, if you're watching this video, that's all you need to do. Those are all plastics and then things you should throw in the trash. If you really want to reprocess or even reload one of these things, they're going to have a smart circuit in here that makes it to where that's not very easy, or it may be completely impossible. The switch itself is not one of these contact types. It actually has a physical switch on it. And the reason it's able to react like that, like I just took a drag or whatever, is really simple. The circuit has on it, we'll just go through the parts that are on almost all vaping products, a little round thing that looks a lot like a microphone. They're very similar in their construction. That's actually a pressure transducer. It detects pressure changes. A microphone technically does the same thing. And I often wonder if they're not just using a microphone. There are 3 pins here that are exposed. They go to the heating elements. It's either one of 2 settings in the heating elements by some creative wiring, or the heating element has a sensor wire. On the other side, we have a USB plug, and we have a circuit board feed-through wire set here that's really, really hard to see, but it's right along a straight line there. It's very, very intricate. This was put together and then bent one time to form that right angle, it looks like. This is not like other designs I've seen where they just put the circuit boards next to each other and create a solder blob between each, because that would bridge too easily. The rest of the circuits are responsible for handling the processing of the current levels, the pulse width modulation, that sort of thing. For the last part of the recycling, if you want to do it, the battery is very clearly the battery. This is the first time I'm releasing it from it. I'm going to pull it loose. And it literally just has 2 wires that are soldered to it. Each wire is clipped independently. You clip it down here and over here on the battery, and now you have an exposed, what looks to be a AA battery-sized cell. Does it list anything on it that would be of any use to us? Legally speaking, they're required to, depending on what country it came from. Okay, it's a 2.41 watt hour, 3.7 volt, which means it's under an amp hour. That means this thing is being very, very efficient. Looking at the circuit design, the main big board down here where the USB recharger plug is, that's a hint, seems pretty basic. This display over here has a little pad on it, and if we remove the pad, we'll see things under it. But what I'm more curious about is the smart circuit. In order to make these things a throwaway item for planned obsolescence, yes, if you do vaping, you are contributing to shitting up the planet. It has to have a smart circuit that counts how many times it's used, and in the name of safety, you know, like Apple batteries and everything else on the planet where they're lying to you, it will have a chip that keeps track of how many times you've used it. Don't know that you can or cannot reset it. I'm pretty sure the circuit board has a reset function built into it. I might have knocked loose a microchip there. But that's about it for recycling it. This looks like an organic LED display. It's a custom job. Very pretty looking. When you flip the switch even once, it has a tendency of lighting up everything in the room, like that. It's very colorful, very Christmas tree-like, candy-like button, very encouraging of the youth in the world to consume, on something that doesn't even tell you what the fuck is in it. So, along with my rant, removing the tank exposes an area with a direct set of connections that can be used to trigger any sort of thing that would respond to a low impedance, high current, low voltage heating element. This is an issue. It doesn't label what's in it. These things should be branded as suspicious unless otherwise noted. And I will look up, after this video is done, what is supposed to be in it, what its chemical makeup is. And I'd like to note, again, that's a lot of volume for whatever the hell could be in here. In this day and age, with the crap that we've seen in this world, there should be a modular refill box that you put on these things. These things should be infinitely reloadable. They should not be throwaway items. This should not be filling up landfills. And if you want to prevent that from happening, you too can go through this, dare I say, EOD activity, just to get the battery and the other parts out so they can be recycled properly. Pro tip, you can't really recycle this. You have to hit it with a heat gun and knock the pieces loose. I'll have a video, somebody asked me exactly how to recycle these completely, but some of these are proprietary, some of them are generic. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that. You'll need it.